Good morning. I'm James Ford, and I'm the guiding teacher for Empty Moon Zen. Today, in our Saturday talk, I'm going to be sharing a few thoughts on mixing and matching in religion. A poem from Teresa of Avila. Christ has no body now on earth but yours, no hands but yours, no feet but yours. Yours are the eyes through which to look out Christ's compassion to the world. Yours are the feet with which he is to go about doing good. Yours are the hands with which he is to bless the world now. In our time and place, it certainly feels like the center cannot hold. Things are flying apart, and we may well be witnessing the end of our species. We could, if we work hard enough, even bring life on this planet to an end. Probably not. But we have the ability, and sometimes it seems the will, to do so. And with that, we look for, well, something that can heal the hurt, or perhaps even something that can guide us and maybe even be of use to our species, and with that, on behalf of our poor planet. A North Star, perhaps. So, it is natural as natural can be for us to turn toward the mysteries. I know how I have found my heart calling to me into a journey, to a quest. Quest feels a particularly appropriate word. This is very much that spiritual part of religions. Perhaps you felt those tugs as well, feeling a call to find the gold within the dross. Now, a word about spiritualities after religion, and especially some of the dangers of making our own way. There are so many religions, good, bad, indifferent. At least according to our individual moment, harsh judgments are pretty easy to come by. In our age, it could be that religions are dying, at least in the West, and people seeking to find a way often poke around through the bones, mixing and matching to assemble something for themselves. Or, to shift the image, sometimes we find ourselves taking parts of several religions that in some way make sense to some part of our hearts and begin to construct doors. Some of this is powerful and true. These put together doors sometimes work. The philosopher and spiritual commentator, in his own language, spiritual entertainer Alan Watts, in one longish sentence captured what this might look like. If I am asked to define my personal tastes in religion, I must say that they lie between Mahayana Buddhism and Taoism, with a certain leaning toward Vedanta and Catholicism, or rather the Orthodox Church of Eastern Europe. End quote. I read that passage and I felt resonances with his view of what was useful and true among the religions. His own jerry-rigged door. The gold in the dross, the spiritual within religions. For him. Fitted together well or poorly. But something that seemed to work for Alan Watts. For me, the list would be similar, but of course, as it is my own way, slightly different. Zen Buddhism, right to the bone, but with sympathies going to Taoism and Western, writ large, Christianity, at least its mystical traditions, especially aspects of Eastern Orthodoxy, but most of all, Anglicanism. All of it washed through a profoundly rationalist and naturalist sensibility. And here's the danger. Sheilaism is a term that comes from an important survey of religion in the second half of the 20th century America. Robert Bella's 1985 Habits of the Heart. The subtitle was Individualism and Commitment in American Life. The book, which I read a few years later in seminary, explored the impact of religion, and specifically privatized religion, and its influence on American culture. Among the case histories the book examined was a young woman to whom they gave the name Sheila. In describing her faith stance, she said, and I quote, "I believe in God. I'm not a religious fanatic. I can't remember the last time I went to church. My faith has carried me a long way. It's Sheilaism. Just my own little voice. It's just try to love yourself and be gentle with yourself. You know, I guess, take care of each other. I think he would want us to take care of each other." End quote. Basically, Sheilaism is cafeteria religion, or salad bar religion. It is a religion where one picks what one likes and ignores the rest. What's in my lists certainly look like pick and choose religion. So, is there a difference? And if yes, what? What Bella and his associates saw in Sheilaism was runaway individualism. Not entirely bad. In fact, there can be enormous value in touching the individual, in claiming our place. But it's not balanced, and it definitely is dangerous. It also strikes me that Sheilaism is an early manifestation of the sentiment we capture as spiritual but not religious. Another mixed bag. The book cites a sociologist describing this privatized religion as, quote, spiritual bricolage. Bricolage is a term of art for a creation that draws upon various elements, sort of found art. As with art in general, where there's a lot more bad art than good, bricolage in religion is more commonly pretty bad stuff. Not well thought through, often things don't hang together, too often simply self-justifying and self-indulgent. In matters religious, if our only metric is taking what feels good, it rarely works for the long haul. When one gets cancer, when adjusting one's attitude doesn't cure it, well, it all falls apart. The term appropriation can be used too easily, and in its extremes can be silly. But it speaks to the casual and unconscious picking of some aspect of another culture or religion without proper appreciation for what is involved. But with genuine respect, with hesitation, and informed by a desire to find the living waters of our lives, looking broadly can be life-saving. So, bricolage can be great art. I believe it also can be authentic spirituality. The difference between bad and good art lies in mysterious elements, such as a sense of harmony, an eye for color. It is informed by some sense, but not a totally private sense of what fits. In this magpie season of spiritual quest, where much is available and we each of us are inclined to private construction of our own faith life, it can be indifferent, bad, or again, life-saving. As with art, our spiritual lives are about something that is ineffable, vague, something just beyond reach. You know, spiritual. And at the very same time, it is as physical and real and urgent as can be. Like knowing you're going to die. And not sometime in some vague future. But you also have heard there is a medicine. It has to do with real choices and real consequences. For me, this is where spiritual but not religious comes into the picture. When I first heard the phrase, I wasn't impressed. It seemed to express the view that religion was everything one didn't like about, well, religion. Spiritual were those parts that made one feel good. Basically, Sheilaism. On more than one occasion, I countered by claiming I was religious but not spiritual. For me, that was my attempt to express my reverence for and commitment to engaging the disciplines of the intimate way. However, over time, I've come to chafe at the problems encompassed within religion writ large, especially the crowd control part. And over time, I've become ever more sympathetic to the impulse to seek the healthful, the useful, the true within religion, while at the same time calling out the parts, and there are so many of them in every religion, that are actually harmful. I've found that what is soul satisfying is a spirituality that serves in good times and bad. And seeking it puts us on a path to ever greater depth. To, well, who knows what the ultimate end of the matter is, but that great goal, that pearl of great price, is approached with words like nirvana, heaven, the promised land. Something both within and among. For those who want to have an authentic spiritual life, they have to start with something. When pushed, I see that Buddhism, Zen really, is the deep root for me. I find the 4 marks of existence are pretty much axiomatic. There's more, but that's my foundation. I return to those fundamental pointers over and over. And as I proceed in the work that this is derived from, I address it along with the 2 truths and the 3 bodies, which equally are foundational for my Zen path. But the traditional religions, including Buddhism, are also flawed vessels. Like all things, at best they have cracks in them, some hairline, others leaving gaps. Sometimes they're just broken shards. But shards can hold those life-giving waters. Fortunately, in modernity, we have access to correctives to the blind spots of our native traditions. And it's simply obvious we need not limit ourselves to the offerings of one religion. The religious perspective available to us are numerous as the world's religions and philosophies. Sometimes one might displace another. That happens. But in our age, the mix often is more complicated, generally more additive than subtractive. So I, a practicing Zen Buddhist, I also dream Christianity. And more, I see how Judaism in particular offers a challenge to any private religion. I think of the Exodus story, so nourishing to so many over the ages. We are ultimately bound up together. That image of Exodus and a communal movement from bondage to freedom is a really important corrective to the selective and essentially privatized sense of personal enlightenment. I imagine generations of people in every corner of the globe. I sense their longing for something given 100 million names. I feel a kinship within that longing. I wonder at the ways people have found to explore and follow that longing into the deepest places. I close my eyes and I can recall a Sufi sema, a gathering of Mevlevi dervishes, the haunting call of the reed, drums and chanting, and then the semazins themselves, throwing off cloaks, bowing to the sheikh, and then twirling into the room and the universe, one hand up to God, spinning, planets and shooting stars. And then the sheikhs themselves stepping into the circle, stars swirling around, the pageant of the universe, the many joined into one thing. I recall a friend, an American of Filipino descent, telling me of his initiation into the sun dance. Fasting, praying, dancing, he showed me the scars where his chest was pierced for the rawhide rope to pass through, and being raised to the heavens in a moment of sacrifice and pain and hope for himself, for his family, for all beings. And for me, always the zendo, the meditation hall. Every time I sit, the echoes of all the years past, starting with an attic in Berkeley, the smells of sandalwood incense and a hint of mildew, gazing at a wall turning white with the morning light, and the silences, the deep silence, shadows and dreams, Episcopal masses, Sufis twirling before God, a man wounded and pierced and drawn up toward heaven, and Zen meditation, Zen koans, the many ways into presence. The call of the intimate way in 100 voices. And those doors that present themselves, or that we build from the ruin of religions, perhaps while recalling an old Zen adage, the intimate way is not difficult, it just avoids picking and choosing. A bit of a conundrum, yes, no. A warning, perhaps. And something else, I suggest, an invitation. The wisdoms beyond our egos, beyond our ideas of what is and is not. There's a nuance buried in that Zen warning about picking and choosing. We are part of this world, and we work with the materials at hand. In some senses, picking and choosing happens with each breath we draw. And how we use them and how they use us calls us into a profound intimacy, onto the other side of something. We need to surrender. We need, even as we're acting, to let go. We need to feel our way into the mystery. The invitation for us is into a deep curiosity, and with that, a willingness to find wisdom where it presents, and however it presents. But be careful. What we choose is what we become.